Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new video. I'll be honest, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's username, so I'll be calling him Oni. So today we typed Oni an ISFP. Let's go over a little bit about what it means to be an ISFP so you can learn a little bit more about this system and the typing process. Oni asked that the audio recording of his answers to the questions would not be made public, so I will honor his wishes. However, I will address the points that are relevant to the conversation off of both memory and my notes that I took. Unfortunately, because of that, this video may be a tad bit shorter than normal. Let's hope I don't eat my words and a tad bit turns into a lot shorter. So what is FI base? Well, FI in general has to do with personal sentiments and morality between close relationships. People who value FI in a higher slot take their personal sentiments very seriously. They also care about doing what they perceive to be the right thing with themselves and the people that are really close to them. Oni stated at many times that he deeply cares about his morality. In fact, he also cares about the morality of his friends. He stated that if he had friends that weren't moral, he would feel a little bit uncomfortable about it. While he may still be their friend, he will feel very uncomfortable about their lack of morality. Additionally, Oni said that he loves to debate about morality. However, he does not do this to expand his own views. In fact, he said that he is very slow to take on other people's perspectives. He does it to spread what he thinks is right. Additionally, while friends that are not as close to him come and go, he tends to have a very small tight-knit group of friends that he tries to keep in touch with. While his friends may change, he elevates some of a higher importance over the other. Oni is incredibly focused on close bonds and morality. I think it's safe to say that he exemplifies base FI positive, which has a very positive view towards the morality between their relationships and personal sentiments, trusts in his information and judges things accordingly. Next, we'll move on to SE in the skilled slot. Throughout all of his responses, Oni was very action focused. For instance, many of the highs in his life contributed to him actually doing something. In fact, he stated that many of the lows included points where he did not do something, and he stated this directly. He loves to get out of the house, do things, and see things. He also showed an action preference when unexpected physical variables were thrown his way. However, he uses his action responsibly. For instance, if he can do something, he wants to do it. Action is better than inaction. But if the odds aren't necessarily in his favor, he's definitely not against just enduring it out. The problem is he can be a little bit insecure about taking action. He is only 17, so not only would I argue that this is because he is early in his development, but I'd also say he's a good example of SE negative in the skill slot, which means he is able to see unexpected physical variables coming, however he may hesitate to take action. While his natural demeanor is toward action, and he can be in the moment, he hesitates towards certain acts. Next, let's move on to Deity NI. NI deals with singular ideas and singular visions. Deity NI absolutely loves this type of information. People with Deity NI often love to indulge in their own inner fantasies and inner ideas. We can see this in him whenever he reads. He loves to envision himself in the author's world and imagine what he would do inside of it. His own interpretation of the plot, his own interpretation of the themes. It's like a personal movie. It's quite amazing. Additionally, while he doesn't have a concrete goal in life, he has a general desire to be happy in the future and often thinks about his own future. He questions what he may want to do in the future and often ponders on these subjects. Throughout a lot of his responses, you can see an inclination towards NI over NE. He constantly pings his own singular ideas. In fact, he's gone on to say that he struggled with taking on other people's perspectives. He said on many occasions that he likes what he's used to and is averse to these new ideas. In fact, he even admitted that he would straight up ignore other people's perspectives for his own. I go over this because many people have mistyped him INFP. There are more reasons why you could not be INFP, but first we'll go over his charges for two functions. This shows evidence for Deity NI positive, which loves singular visions and singular ideas to the point of often overindulging in these fantasies and visions, often will live by his singular ideas on a certain subject but does not adhere to a strict vision or a plan for a solid goal. But he also demonstrated any neutral and trickster position, which means he is indifferent to connections between ideas and their potential. He knows that he is not particularly good at recognizing this type of information, but he simply does not really care. He will use functions to emulate NE to achieve whatever he needs, but it is never an end in and of itself. He will go against this if it conflicts with his ego, or attempt to work with it if it goes along with his ego. Next, we'll move on to TE inferior. He didn't really talk much about TE related concepts until I asked him directly about it. He replied by saying that he would love to apply his information one day. However, information that changes can annoy him. He likes the consistency in his ideas, and feel that this type of information may compromise it. This is a textbook example of TE neutral in the inferior slot, which means while he wishes that his judgments would be more pragmatic and be applied more often when doing so, he feels that it may compromise the integrity of what he is trying to implement just for it to appeal to others. He will try to do so if they fall in line with his personal sentiments and morality between close relationships. Next, we'll move on to FE in the nemesis position. A constant undertone in all of his messages were relating to his fear about how the group would take his ideas and sentiments. Without divulging too much detail, which I would assume would be a little bit too personal, he is afraid of group sentiments and judgment from the group. The undertone throughout his responses note that he is afraid of how the group's sentiments may judge his actions and ideas. I think he is a good example of FE neutral in the nemesis position, which is afraid of group sentiments, so he tries to see how the group feels about certain types of judgments before bringing it out in the open. He is often cautious of what he reveals. Even his cautious nature about the information that is revealed here implicates this. Next, we'll move over to SI in the critic slot. Throughout his responses, he was always very critical about systems like the education system and workforce. He believes they unrightfully judge certain hobbies and professions. He has strong ideas about how these systems should be. It is important to note that this also speaks against INFP. INFP not only look favorably on other people's perspectives, but repeatable systems and processes. Of course, this does not mean that all INFP are going to be happy with the workforce or education system. However, they're going to be looking at other people's perspectives to expand their understanding of their judgment function, which would be FI. They're often likely to appeal to or make their own systems regarding this information. However, he did not once bring up his own systems and repeatable processes that he adheres to. He only spoke out against other systems and were very critical of them. Additionally, he heavily values his own vision and perspective over everyone else's. INFP in and of themselves are very critical towards singular ideas. They often perceive themselves as very open-minded and condemn people that may seem singular-minded. Of course, this is also, ironically, a very single-minded ideology, but that's the hypocrisy of the critic function. The critic function holds strong views that are often hesitant to change. So, INFP will be critical of NI, while ISFP will be critical of SI. You can see the difference between the skill and the critic function by how much they respect the information and how much they disregard others' information in preference to their own. We see that throughout Oni's responses, he disregards other people's interpretations of systems, yet he constantly references his own. He is open to unexpected physical variables, and can adapt accordingly. This is also very uncharacteristic of the INFP that normally finds it very hard to do this. In fact, some people with SE Trickster may even disregard this information as inferior to the information that they prefer. We do not see him respect group perspectives and the linking between ideas. Even if we argued he had any negative, we would need to see these patterns with ease and incorporate it into his own framework. We would also need to see him being very critical of singular perspectives. However, as we have seen, this is something he indulges to a high degree on his own. Instead of valuing the links between ideas and their potentiality, he continually values and references his own vision. And while we don't see him repeatedly appealing to repeatable processes and systems that are outside of his scope of morality, we do see him responsibly dealing with unknown physical variables. We do see him being very action-focused and wanting to do things, see things, explore things. And we also see him being very critical of any system that he brings up. In his responses, he did not even think to bring up a system that he himself appeals to in that way. However, he is not completely against using a system that he believes to be the absolute right system. Therefore, it is not only safe to say that he is not an INFP, but it's safe to say that he has SI positive in the critic slot, which is critical of systems and repeatable processes, but he will be able to accept a system that makes sense to him and adheres to his idea of what a system should be. He will accept repeatable processes that bring him closer to what he wants and make sense to him. Lastly, we'll move on to TI Demon. A big desire of him was to bring consistency to his morals. He wants to be able to explain it and for it to be holistically consistent with itself. He does not like contradictions within his moral system. A way he will be able to do this is by adding that logical consistency to his morals. I think he's a perfect example of TI positive in the demon slot, which acts like inner logical systems aren't wanted, however he deeply desires them. His life goal is to give consistency to his beliefs and judgments through a logical lens. Wants his sentimentality and view on morality between relationships to make sense in a logical way so he can apply it. Now that we've explained why he's an ISFP, let's go on to his focuses. It took me a while to debate this, but I'm confident that he is FISE focused. He has an obvious inclination towards his own personal sentiments and the morality between his close relationships, that is without a doubt. However, a lot of the highs, lows, and points he brought up pointed more towards SE than an I. He is fixated on not only what he has done, but what he has not. He is aware of both his actions and the crippling lack thereof. I'd go so far as to say that once he develops, he will be a very inspirational ISFP. This fixation on action, even when it is negative, leaves a lot of room for growth. His ability to deal with the unexpected physical variables is not to be reckoned with. Therefore, once he completes his hero's journey, I am certain he will be exemplary. As for his burst function, I'm confident he is a perfect example of FI burst, and I don't think this really came as a shock to anyone. The high focus on his personal sentiments and morality between these close relationships dictate this. A large part of his speech and his points brought up also included his morality and how he sees morality in general. His personal sentiments on these concepts can be both profound and deep. So, what can we tell about Oni? Oni holds his personal sentiments and morality between relationships in high regard. He holds unexpected physical variables and actions in high regard. He acknowledges both his actions and inactions and wishes to better them. He prefers his own visions and singular ideas that allow him to dive deep into what it means personally to him. While he is annoyed by rapidly changing ideas, he would like eventually for his moral system to be applied. Oni is very critical about systems. He wants them to be better and more inclusive of what he personally values. He does not really respond well to different perspectives, different links between ideas, and potentials of those ideas unless they directly correlate with something that he personally values or wants to see. However, he is beginning to take steps to open himself up. He wants his moral system to be consistent, not only with his morality but with logic, so he can explain and implement it in a numerous variety of circumstances. What about some advice for how Oni could improve? Well, he could start trusting in himself to be able to take more action, and he should be a little bit less harsh on himself when he doesn't take that action. He should learn how to better deal with changing facts and ideas. He should eventually grow to know that society and the groups aren't going to like what he says all the time. They aren't necessarily going to like all of his ideas or judgments, but that may not matter as much as he thinks. Overall, Oni has a lot of potential. With his strong sense of inner morality and personal sentiments, with his focus on action, he can be the one that truly brings change, the one that will truly be the hero. That's our typing for today. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much, and farewell.